Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today is October 21st, 2025. And the Blue Jays are going to the World Series. Last time the Blue Jays went to the World Series, I was born in 1993. That's kind of crazy to think about. That's absolutely crazy to think about. But here we are. Blue Jays are going up against the LA Dodgers in the World Series. That is freaking awesome, baby. That is freaking awesome. Go Blue Jays, go. We got a lot of Canadian news to take a look at this morning. You've got some remarks from our Prime Minister. You've got some hints that are being dropped by members of his cabinet. Liberal MPs are maybe setting up the precursor for an early election so that they could try to win a majority government. That's an actual thing that just happened. That's kind of scary. And then you've got Aboriginal title ownership is superseding land ownership in British Columbia. So if you own a house in BC or own property in BC, it can be taken away in an instant from Aboriginal title ownership, as we're about to find out, which is kind of scary. And that can actually be reversed and canceled permanently. It just has to be done at the provincial level. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to take a look at today. A lot of stuff to take a look at. Also, the mainstream media keeps attacking Pierre Poilievre, calling him a whole bunch of things. And we're going to take a look at all of it. All I ask is for you guys, you know where I'm going with this. You know where I'm going with this. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's have some fun today, huh? Let's have some fun. All right. People are happy in the chat, huh? People are happy in the chat. Look at that. Blue Jays win. Good morning. People screaming my name all in caps. It's a good day. It's a good day, huh? Look at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be fun. Let's have some fun today. Let's have some fun. By the way, when question period happens, we've got like the main part of question period and then the B team. For those who can't tell, I'm actually on vacation with my family. I'm actually on vacation with my family. So when the main part of question period is over, when all of the people that we know have spoken, and then it just lingers and does like the real backbench people, we might cut it short. I might want to trim the fat. I've been meaning to do that anyways. It's nice to, you know, just go the whole thing, and then you feel like you watched a full episode of television, right? But it's probably about 15-20 minutes of useless crap in question period at the very, very end. So we might just cut that a little bit short. I hope you guys understand, though. It's going to keep us sane. You know what I'm saying? It'll keep us sane. All right, let's get started. Prime Minister Mark Carney was stopped in the halls of Parliament and asked about the Blue Jays.
But we'd love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, unbelievable. Well, I always knew, but I mean, that is clutch. It's absolutely clutch. Springer coming through one knee. And then getting it closed out. Gaussman, everyone. It was fantastic, and I'm super excited. I'm out of breath. I can't even.
We're talking about clutch.
It was a real exciting moment. I'll give them that. It was a real exciting moment. We were watching it as a family on the television, and it was pretty freaking exciting, man. I'm glad the Blue Jays are going to the World Series. It's first time since 1993, which is the year I was born. So that's kind of interesting. What's not so interesting and what's not so good is this right here. Steve McKinnon drops a not so subtle hint about an election. Here we go.
2 weeks from the budget. I think that what I'm seeing in Parliament worries me. The Bloc Québécois, who, without having even read the budget, eliminate the possibility that they will support it, and the Conservatives making just ludicrous demands with respect to the budget.
It sounds like you're worried about maybe Canada going to another election. Is that a realistic possibility Canadians should expect?
We have a minority government, but we believe we have a mandate. And when I see opposition parties not ruling out the possibility of voting for the budget. That's starting to worry me, but I think it's them that are misreading the mood of Canadians. If an election is necessary, we would obviously, reluctantly, because we don't think Canadians want an election, but election there will be. It's the opposition parties who have that decision in their hands. You'll have to ask the NDP about.
So we will not rule out an election. If that's what the Canadians want, if that's what's necessary, then we won't rule it out. And this is because they have a minority government. So the Liberal government can get stuff done-ish, but they need a coalition. They don't have enough votes. They got like 168 or 169 seats out of 172 to be able to really pass anything. And they do control the Senate, so anything they get passed would 100% just go through the Senate. This is a little scary because historically speaking, any government that forms a minority government calls an election usually within the first 18 months to try to win either more seats or just a majority government. And we feel like potentially with all the fear mongering that the Liberals have been doing and the lack of really finding a deal, or maybe he's going to wait till there is a brand new Kuzma deal that he'll then call an election and maybe it becomes more favorable for the Liberals. This is a little terrifying. It's a little terrifying, folks. Because if you thought a Liberal minority government was bad, wait till it's a majority government. It'll be really bad. All those censorship bills, everything will just get passed instantly. Won't even be voted on, probably.
What do you think of the CBC's 5-year plan? I think there's lots of really good elements in this plan. I really like the fact that the public broadcaster wants to invest more in local news across the country. You saw some of that. Certainly, we think that more, if we can, as you know, we committed to invest more in the public broadcaster, and we believe that those additional resources will help them make sure that Canadians have access to more information, non-biased information, and more local news across the country.
To be clear, that will be in the budget, that promised funding.
I'm not the finance minister. I don't know what's going to be in the budget.
Oh my goodness, they think that CBC is unbiased. They actually think that CBC is unbiased, and they're putting more money into it. Harry Pot smoker. Oh, mon Dieu. That's bananas, dude. There's something seriously wrong with the Liberals. I really wish that the CBC did go through a bit of a defunding process, because there's just too much. There's too much money going there. They are very clearly biased, and it's not good, man. It's not good. You got a lot of propaganda out there, and it's funded by our government.
We do also have some breaking news to bring you now concerning another key part of the Canadian economy today. There is fresh uncertainty hanging over this country's auto industry following word that General Motors is dropping electric van production at its plant near London, Ontario. GM blames trickling demand for its Bright Drop electric delivery vans. 1,200 workers will start to receive payouts. The plant had already operated below capacity since 2022, even after taking on a $1 billion government investment. The union representing plant workers has yet to comment on that decision. And moments ago, the Minister of Industry commented on the breaking news. Here now is Melanie Joly.
So obviously tough news this morning for the workers in Ingersoll for GM.
Stellantis, GM, Volkswagen, every auto manufacturer is leaving Canada and they're going to America. This is obviously devastating what's happening. How could they do this? We're going to sue them. No, you're not going to sue anybody. This is the sad reality of picking a fight with America. We saw them be friendly when he went to the Oval Office. Prime Minister Mark Carney sat next to Trump, and Trump literally said, we both have competing businesses. We both want the auto sector. We both want steel, and we're just going to have to wait and see. And now we're seeing, no longer waiting. Car manufacturers are moving to America because it's the right business move for them. I don't blame them. It's unfortunate that this is going to affect Canadians. It's unfortunate that you're going to have thousands of people's jobs that just poof, disappear. That part is unfortunate. But this was spotted from miles away. I've been calling it. I've been saying all the auto manufacturers are going to leave to go to America because there's more incentives. There's less red tape. You're actually rewarded as a business to be in America, whereas Canada, you're penalized. Taxes, red tape, bureaucracy. It's just crap. We know it.
I had a conversation with the Canadian CEO of GM this morning. I had a conversation with the head of Unifor, who represents the employees, and a conversation with Doug Ford and Vic Fideli, his Minister of Economic Development. So we've decided altogether that we would be creating a new response group because we need to make sure that we fight for these jobs, that there are new models coming back to Ingersoll, and that GM has a bright future here in Canada. So that's what I'll be focusing on.
GM has no future in Canada. The auto sector is going to solely belong to America. There's nothing that can be done about it. And this is the unfortunate reality that we live in. You can either cope and you can adapt, or you can live in the, this isn't fair state. And the Liberals right now are pandering to Liberal voters and giving them false hope. The auto sector is entirely moving to America. Deal with it. Canada has oil and gas. We have mines. We can get gold. We can get silver. We can get cobalt. We can get everything out of our ground. So let's do that. I'm sorry, but the auto sector is gone. Let's make our own refineries and let's be the oil and gas hub. That's it. That's the card we've been dealt with. Either play it or lose. And right now, we're losing. We're losing.
Surprised to see this morning the report that we're possibly going to finalize a deal in the next few days. We're making progress. I'm in constant discussions on the weekend, again yesterday, with my American counterparts. We're making progress. We're into a level of detail that we hadn't seen previously, but we still have work to do, and my objective is to continue to do that work until we get to the deal, but we haven't set a deadline of a particular date in the next week or two. We'll just continue to do the work to get the right deal. Surprise.
The right deal. Oh, my goodness. Look, Canada will not have the right deal. The right deal lies with Canada mining its own resources. That's the only right deal that Canada can do. Full self-reliance, where we extract and we refine our own oil and gas, or we have an economic merger with America. But either way, if we start to rely on ourselves right now, we're just going to get tariffed in different ways, and it's eventually going to lead into an economic merger with America. That doesn't have to mean the 51st state, okay? That's like a boogeyman term that was used during an election that Trump keeps saying to just try to, stir the pot a little bit. An economic merger between Canada and America would be prosperous for you, 100%, no doubt in my mind, okay? It's just that the Liberals are fighting it. They're fighting it because they want to hold on a little bit longer so they can get their majority government. And it's just inevitable. Whether it happens under the Liberals or it happens under the Conservatives, an economic merger is inevitable because there's bigger threats out there. There's China. There's Russia. There's the entirety of BRICS. There's the shift off of American U.S. dollar dependence. And now apparently China is purchasing more gold than ever to try to destabilize the American dollar. There's actual threats out there to us that we can't do anything about on our own. But we have an economic merger with America. We strengthen our ties. We bring in some American military bases to joint on Canada's soil. All of a sudden now we feel a little bit better about our position. Yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. I could be wrong. I doubt it, but I could be wrong. Let me know what you guys think about that. Then we've got David Cochrane on CBC. We're going to take a look at this because freaking CBC full of propaganda. Let's have a look.
The Canadian consensus on immigration appears to be crumbling. New polling suggests a number of Canadians who say the federal government is accepting too many immigrants has spiked in recent years, and among conservative voters, the swing is even more dramatic. The CBC's JP Tasker is here to break down this data for us. So, JP, what are Canadians
way too
telling
many
pollsters
immigrants
about immigration levels?
Well, most Canadians say the government is letting in too many immigrants, according to a new poll from Environics Institute. Nearly 6 in 10 Canadians now say that immigration is too high, and there's been what the firm calls a sea change in public opinion on this topic. Let's show our viewers this chart here.
By the way, they called you racist for thinking this. They said you were wrong for thinking this. They said you were racist for saying that there was too much immigration, and you have to be inclusive, right? That's not very nice. You have to be inclusive. You can't say there's too much immigration. That's wrong. Canada's proud about its immigration. And now all of a sudden, 6 out of 10 Canadians, a majority of Canadians, seem to think that there's too much immigration. That's what happens. That's what happens. And it's actually going to make people a little bit more racist because of this, because of the fact that the government has been so lax on everything. It's unfortunate, but it's avoidable with better leadership and more attention to the stats. This is certainly avoidable.
So you see, over the last 25 years, most Canadians were relatively happy with immigration levels. You know, zooming in on 2020, only 27% of survey respondents at the time said there were too many immigrants coming in. Well, fast forward 5 years, and that number has now spiked to 56%. So there's been a 30-point swing in a relatively short period of time in terms of the number of people who say there's too much immigration to Canada. Of course, that period coincides with the Liberals kind of turbocharging immigration, adding more than 1 million people a year for 3 years in a row in that post-pandemic period. Although the number of newcomers has sort of flatlined, population growth has stagnated this year, there is still high levels of public opposition to immigration, despite some of the changes that we're seeing around us as fewer international students and TFWs come into this country.
Yeah, you can see it right here, right? The post-COVID years just boom as they reopened the gates, let people into the country. That's when the sentiment started to change. And what's interesting, JP, as stark as that is, the surge in opposition or discontent with immigration, it's even more notable amongst people who vote conservative.
Yeah, that's right. More than 80% of conservative voters now say that there is too much immigration to this country. That's the highest figure that Environics has ever recorded in the 48 years that they've been tracking Canadian views on immigration, the highest among any demographic group they've ever recorded. So let's bring up this graphic. As you can see, 25 years ago, federal voting intentions didn't really tell you a lot about how people felt about immigration, right?
Look at this, right?
But look at the end of that graphic there. Yeah, I mean, like 25 years ago, it was kind of clumped together there. NDP, Liberal, Conservatives, there was all, there was some opposition among all of those sort of voters. But when you fast forward to now, there's a huge difference. 82% of Conservatives now say there's too many coming in. For the Liberals, 40% for the NDP voter.
Yeah, because the Liberals are freaking brainwashed, man. The Liberals are told that they are literally racist if they think otherwise, and they have to be inclusive. They're literally liberals. If you go ask a liberal, hey, can the Taliban immigrate here? They would say, well, I don't see why not. Are they gonna behave in Canada? It's wrong to say no to the Taliban. We can't deny the Taliban in Canada. That's what liberals would say, right? Conservatives say, hell no, bro, you're terrorists. Don't come into our country. Hell no. So these aren't immigration opinions for liberals and conservatives, conservatives being blue. This is a litmus test. And you can see how the NDP and the liberals are failing. They're dumber than the average person. Down at 40 and 30% of the voter base seems to think that there's too much immigration. You got to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
30%. So there's been really a huge uptick among all voters. The consensus around immigration is crumbling, but you really see that stark increase among conservatives in particular. And that might explain why we're starting to see a messaging shift from conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, right? He is reading the tea leaves. He's seeing how the party base is responding to this issue, and he has been calling for a hard cap on immigration. He has called for the dismantling of the temporary foreign worker program. He has called for...
He also, like a year ago, wanted direct flights to MSR. So, like, yeah, it's a little bit of a faux stance right now by Pierre, since not too long ago, like right before the election, I think he was calling for direct flights to MSR. But yeah, we need to do something about the immigration. Absolutely.
A crackdown on what he calls bogus asylum claims. And also we're hearing from immigration critic Michelle Rempel-Garner, who also wants to revisit birthright citizenship. So what was once the third rail of Canadian politics is really not that anymore, as public opinion really takes a turn.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to take a hard stance on immigration as a party leader, then you should clean your house and make sure that, you know, you have a cabinet that reflects those views, and that it's not really it. Like, there's a lot of, I think there's like Khalistani people in the Conservatives and in the Liberals, of course. Like, Jagmeet was the biggest advocate for Khalistani terrorists and stuff like that. So, like, there's stuff that needs to be done, right? You can easily say that you support something, but if your actions don't really back it, then it's a little questionable. But I think that we can all agree today that there is way too much immigration. Now, for the Conservatives to win on this issue, they have to be able to, you know, look the part as well. And I'll just say this. When we do question period, when I'm streaming question period, sometimes when certain people in the Liberals talk, I can't understand them, so I turn subtitles on. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just with the Liberals that I have to turn the subtitles on. Sometimes there's a few people on the Conservative side that I also have to turn the subtitles on. I'm just saying. That should be addressed. Right? All right. Let's take a look now at the fact that the federal government, the Liberals, are dropping counter tariffs against China and America, right? Remember the whole elbows up thing? We're going to stick it to America and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all.
Mackenzie Gray is following developments for us from Ottawa. Mackenzie.
The finance minister is defending dropping some counter tariffs on both China and the U.S., Donna, after mixed reviews from the steel and aluminum industry.
There are some steel products that you just don't make in Canada, so you need to make sure that, you know, industry can still procure these products.
One of the most prominent products, the classic steel I-beam, a core construction component that isn't made in Canada but can now come north tariff-free.
For us, our access to the American economy and to projects in the U.S. and to products coming in from the U.S. is paramount.
That will let Canadian steel fabricators bid on U.S. contracts without feeling the impacts of tariffs. But the Canadian Steel Producers Association says 80% of what the Canadian economy needs can be produced domestically. They're upset the new exemptions are over 100 pages long and include specific carve-outs for certain companies. So detailed that this Ottawa apartment building is getting a single steel door tariff-free from the U.S., despite Global News finding multiple Canadian companies that make similar products.
Navigating this sort of huge network of impacts on the Canadian economy is tremendously difficult. There's no easy answers and no easy decisions.
The reductions in tariffs on China, who Ottawa has accused of dumping steel in Canada, coincided with the Foreign Affairs Minister traveling to Beijing.
Relaxing our kind of defenses against that policy from China at the
this current moment seems hard to understand.
But the China trip and cutting tariffs just a coincidence, according to the finance minister.
This is not about China, this is about Canadians. This is about Canada. This is about Canadian manufacturing, which needed these products.
Elbows out. Elbows up.
While running on being tough on Trump, the prime minister has subsequently dropped the vast majority of U.S. counter tariffs as the Trump administration added and increased tariffs on Canada.
Mr. Carney removed retaliatory tariffs against the United States, and I've seen nothing in return.
Dropping counter tariffs has put the Liberals in a massive revenue hole for the upcoming budget, Donna, after their election platform promised they would raise $20 billion from tariffs and give that money to struggling Canadian businesses.
All right, Mackenzie Gray,
Canada promised that they would raise $20 billion from tariffs. Oh, Monsieur, I could have told you that was a lie. I could have told you that that wouldn't be happening at all. Oh, my goodness, that's so funny. So there goes that revenue stream. $20 billion. Poof, gone. $20 billion that we're not getting because we have no retaliatory tariffs, which, by the way, puts me between a rock and a hard place because I agree with no retaliatory tariffs, but I like to criticize those who said that they are going to do retaliatory tariffs and then backpedal to agree with me that retaliatory tariffs are not good. So even though I agree with the outcome of no retaliatory tariffs, because I don't think we stand a chance fighting against the United States, it's silly to do that. They're just going to short squeeze us sooner than later. It's still funny because Carney very much campaigned and won a freaking federal election on the fact that he will absolutely do retaliatory tariffs and raise, $20 billion off of the tariffs. Anyways, let's move on to something that's quite serious in British Columbia, but coming to a province near you. You have Aboriginal title. What does that mean? That means that right now in British Columbia, you own a house. Well, an Aboriginal band can claim, as they have just claimed, that they actually own the land that your house is on. And that makes the property theirs, no longer yours, even if you own it. If you have a mortgage, they can still do that. If you own your house or your property outright, they can still do that. This was just done days ago in British Columbia. Let's have a look.
A judge has decided that homes in Richmond are now owned by the Cowichan tribes because their great-grandparents once fished there. That is Aboriginal title. There are 200 more bands in BC with their own Aboriginal title claims. Judges have the legal authority to give away every square inch of this province, including your home, as long as Aboriginal title remains in our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, property rights are the foundation of Western civilization. Aboriginal title is an existential threat to that civilization. My question is for the Premier. Will he support constitutional reform to legally extinguish Aboriginal title?
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, we take a different view than the member on many things, including this one. The work of reconciliation and sitting down with First Nations across this province to resolve historic wrong and to bring certainty to the land is the path forward, and it's a path that we will continue to take, and is an important one. And I've already talked quite extensively about our approach in this legal matter that we'll continue to take to uphold private property rights, and we will continue to work with First Nations to bring agreements and certainty to the
Hell no. Hell to the no. I live in BC, and I'm afraid for my property because it can just be taken. It can be given to Aboriginal title because they once fished there. That's kind of crazy. Let's take a look at the actual news story, though, and see what really happened.
It really was a landmark case.
It's a decision with potential national legal implications. In August, the BC Supreme Court ruled the Cowichan tribes hold Aboriginal title to part of the Fraser River and land in developed areas of Richmond, BC.
The court specifically suspended the effect of that declaration to give the parties time to negotiate.
The decision says the territory was historically used as a fishing village, then sold by the provincial government without their consent.
It's the first time that Aboriginal title is being established by a court in anywhere in an urban area of
the country.
The judgment also includes lands now used by the Vancouver-Fraser Port Authority. Over the weekend, Richmond's mayor sent a letter to roughly 150 property owners saying in part, the court has declared Aboriginal title to your property, which may compromise the status and validity of your ownership. This was mandated without any prior notice to the landowners.
We don't want to be moving anywhere. We don't want to be giving up this property. We have no intentions of selling this property.
The mayor says the letter was intended to keep people informed and press for clarity before the appeal process, which the province has filed.
I'm not saying we don't want to do the right thing and cure some historical wrongdoings by various levels of government. But fee simple property, your home, should be exempt from this discussion.
Premier David Eby is calling for a quick resolution.
Certainty around the private property rights in the province, your home, your business that the property is set on is crucial. Just like partnerships with First Nations are crucial.
If it gets appealed and a whole bunch of binding law comes out of that, it'll apply throughout all of British Columbia. If it gets appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada, then it'll become binding law in Canada.
Oh my
BC's
God.
opposition Conservative leader is calling for constitutional change to protect private property rights.
And I actually think the Supreme Court should rule that private property rights do extinguish Indigenous title.
We reached out to the Cowichan tribes. They said the chiefs were unavailable for comment. Legal experts caution the ruling doesn't immediately strip landowners of their rights. The court ordered good faith negotiations. The case is being closely watched given its potential to reshape land rights across the country. Neetu Garcha, Global News.
They were unavailable for comments. Where were they? What were they doing? That's unacceptable, dude. You can't pull some shit like this and then be like, I'm unavailable for comments. Nah, forget it. We'll talk later. That's crazy. It's actually happened. Like a judge said, yeah, you know what? Your Aboriginal band, ancestors, whatever, fished here many years ago. So you're right. This is your land, and we're going to fork over private property ownership to you. That's insane, because once it's done once, then it'll be done again, and it can spread unless you nip it in the butt right away. And unless they actually remove Aboriginal title from the BC Constitution, it's going to keep happening. And if it happened in BC, and if it happens again, it'll happen in other provinces, and it could happen in other parts of the country. And that's Canada, ladies and gentlemen. That is Canada. It does feel like it's the end of Canada. Like, this is craziness. Imagine working so hard in your adult life, and you save and you make all the sacrifices, and you start a family, and you're crunching pennies, and you buy yourself a house. You buy yourself a house. You're like, hey, man, we got a yard, we got a fence. It's not white picket fence, but we can paint it. Okay? We work our ass off to get a property. And then all of a sudden, an Aboriginal band says, actually, that's our property. After you've got a mortgage on it, after you've been making payments, after you're settled, okay? You use the door frame to mark your kid's height. All these things, you get a little tree house in the backyard on the one tree. You make it your property. You get a dog, maybe a cat, okay? Sprinklers, you reseed the grass, everything. You paint the walls inside, you add new flooring, everything. You put your heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears into your own property. It's yours. You finally did it. You got a piece of property. You started a family. You're living the dream. It's hard because groceries are so expensive. It's hard because you're being taxed up the wazoo. It's hard because cars are expensive, and now all of a sudden you got 2 kids and you got to upgrade from a small Toyota Corolla. You got to get a minivan or an SUV. It's hard because life is not easy in Canada right now. It's hard because we're not the leading country in the G7. We're the highest tax country with the highest inflation in the G7. It's hard because everything's stacked against you, but you did it. You started a family in Canada. You got yourself a house. You got the dog. You went and you saved up for paint, and all of a sudden summertime's here. The snow's melting. You're painting your fence white for that white picket fence. It's hard, but you did it, and you're doing it. You're making sacrifices to make your mortgage payments. You're making the sacrifices to maybe put a little money aside in your TFSA, your kids' education fund. You're making the sacrifices. And then all of a sudden, you get a letter in the mail saying, court appearance. The land you were on is unceded territory of blah, 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 blah. And you're like, what? I've been making mortgage payments here for 3.5 years. I've got 2 kids, a third on the way. Wife is on mat leave. I'm working 2 jobs. We're making it work. What's going on? I painted my fence white. I built a tree house in the backyard for my kids. What's going on? And then a judge in Canada, the judicial system in Canada, most people from little infancy going through the education system, you're taught that the government's here for you, right? You're taught that the police are there to protect you, that the government is there for you. $10 a day childcare. The government cares about you. Of course. But now all of a sudden, you're on the other end of it and you find out that the government doesn't care about you. So you've been making these sacrifices for so long and you finally did it. You're doing the impossible. Everything's stacked against you. And you go to court and a judge rules against you that in fact that land is unceded territory of Dubada. And your house is now owned by an Aboriginal band. And you have to give it up immediately. That's Canada. That's a hard thing to really wrap your head around. That your property can just be forked over, not just to the government at any moment. The government can also freeze your bank accounts at any moment. So not only are you living in that perpetual fear, which takes a mental toll on you constantly, but your actual property, not your car, okay? Your actual property, your house, your hard-earned blood, sweat, and tears home can be forked over at any given moment. And a judge, the court system, will rule against you. That shatters someone's entire worldview. And as for me personally, I was in the military, swore an oath to Canada, swore my allegiance to the Queen. And I trusted the government. I worked for the government. I was in the military, of course. Apolitical during my time in the military. Commander-in-chief, whoever it was. Yeah, okay, that's what we're doing. Go ahead. Great. Awesome. No opinions of what was right or wrong for political stuff. Just, yeah, okay, great. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And all of a sudden, my own personal worldviews are shattering. It feels like every week. It sucks. It sucks that we live in such a state of the country where you can't even trust your own country. You can't trust your own government. You can't trust your own judges to do the right thing. That's scary, man. That is really, really terrifying. Really terrifying. But that's my opinion, right? That's my opinion. I could be wrong. I could be right. I want to know what you guys think down below. Do you also think that this is bad? Let me know what you guys think. Okay, then we got to take a look at Pierre Poilievre because the Globe and Mail is after Pierre. They're saying Pierre Poilievre charges ahead recklessly. This is on the Globe and Mail, a mainstream media organization. By the way, if you haven't hit the like button yet, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. When conservative leader Pierre Poilievre leveled his extraordinary accusations of political cover-up by the RCMP, he chose a forum at odds with the seriousness of the allegations. He was not in the House of Commons or standing outside the Supreme Court. He made the claim in the 29th minute of a 32-minute interview with a niche podcast. So the reason why they're saying he wasn't in the House of Commons or the Supreme Court was because you're protected. You can make the most wildish claims that you want, but you have blanket immunity to say whatever. Like anything, you're covered. That's why when they argue in the House of Commons, you'll see like when Pierre's really getting under the skin of the Liberals, you'll see the Liberals say, step outside and say that to me, see what happens, right? That's not because they want to throw fists. That's because they're not covered under that blanket immunity. Even there, Mr. Poilievre did not preface it with anything that would suggest he was making a blockbuster claim. Instead, he just casually said that the RCMP, the Mounties, conspired to stop former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau being criminally charged over ethics violations with the SNC-Lavalin affair. If the RCMP had been doing its job and not covering up for him, then he would have been criminally charged, he said, going on to smear federal police force. But of course, the RCMP covered it all up, and the leadership of the RCMP is just frankly just despicable when it comes to enforcing laws against the Liberal government. And the mainstream media does not like this at all. They really do not like this. In fact, that's not the only article from the Globe and Mail. You have this one here, which is just, is Pierre Poilievre okay? Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's recent behavior doesn't quite meet the threshold of an all-out spiral. He hasn't shaved his head like Britney or started running through the street naked like that guy who created Kony 2012 campaign. But look, when you're supposed to be the solemn voice of the official opposition and yet you're posting on X about how Nazis were socialists, but it's right there in their name, and trying to rewrite the history of the Freedom Convoy, he referred to a 3-week occupation which effectively shut down Ottawa's core as peaceful protest, which it was. It absolutely was peaceful protest. And talking about how former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau should have been arrested for actions he took while in office, you start to look a little unhinged. In a recent interview with YouTube channel called Northern Perspective, Mr. Poilievre said that Mr. Trudeau should have been criminally charged for vacationing on the private island of Aga Khan in 2016, and that he probably broke the law during the SNC-Lavalin too. Many of the scandals of the Trudeau era should have involved jail time, he said during the interview, but that didn't happen because the RCMP covered it all up, according to Mr. Poilievre. What actually happened during the SNC-Lavalin scandal is that the Liberals, citing cabinet confidence, failed to produce all relevant documents, thus limiting the RCMP's ability to conduct a thorough investigation. The leadership of the RCMP is frankly just despicable, Poilievre said in that interview. They really don't like Pierre, huh? This is supposed to be like unbiased media. And instead of focusing on the actual either cover-up for Justin Trudeau or the potential cover-up for Justin Trudeau, they're focusing on what Pierre said and the significance of it. So instead of just saying, well, you know, maybe he's got some validity, did the RCMP actually cover this up? Or did they play a role in this? Did it just kind of get swept under the rug because it was the Prime Minister, right? It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, the spin that the media is taking on this. But that's media in Canada, folks. That is the media in Canada. And it's a little concerning. It's a little concerning because they're more concerned about slandering and attacking Pierre than they are about actually uncovering the truth, which, you know, adds to the narrative that Canada is full of propaganda.
The finance minister has announced a new agency to help fight financial crime in Canada. The initiative will be part of the much-anticipated federal budget to be delivered in 2 weeks. The CBC's Janice McGregor is on this story for us. Okay, Janice, so what does this national strategy entail?
Well, Well, a few different component parts. Of course, no one said it's easy to go after phone spammers and online scammers. These financial crimes getting more and more complex, particularly when it involves large-scale money laundering and organized crime and people participating in these activities who aren't even based in Canada. The government realizing it cannot do this alone. It is going to need the cooperation of banks and financial institutions. So part of it is going to be some legislation changing the Bank Act, requiring these financial institutions to have policies in place to protect their customers from these scams, and also to mitigate the harm, like allowing people to have more control over their transaction limits and some of the other things on their accounts that sort of people have been taking advantage of. There's also some language here about exploring new policies they could get in place with respect to, for example, cell phone companies, again, to enlist them in fighting back against spam calls and fraudulent, impersonation of people. That is another way that people get fooled. Of course, a lot of them already doing this proactively for their customers. And there's a final piece here, particularly with respect to those most vulnerable to economic abuse. You think of seniors, you think of newcomers. They say they want to develop a code of conduct that will prevent people from being coerced. Of course, sometimes these frauds, this harm is done not by someone in a faraway place, but by someone close to a vulnerable individual, and it really hurts their economic independence after they get taken advantage of like that. But as you say, the centerpiece will be this new financial crimes agency. No price tag here, even though this was billed as a pre-budget measure. Unclear exactly how much it's going to cost, but something the Liberals have been promising since 2021, the previous election campaign to this one. Why did it take them so long? Well, the finance minister today said he is finally the one who's taking this on board and going to get it done.
You need something different. This is about, if you look at the financial crime unit in the United Kingdom, or if you look at the FBI units that are doing that, you need specialized people. We'll be attracting the best. We'll take people from different parts of the government of Canada, that would be interested to join that organization, because fighting financial crime in the 21st century is something very complex.
So he's vowing to get it done, but of note, they say the legislation to actually set this agency up won't be ready until the spring of 2026. So we are a couple, some ways out from this. Nevertheless, the intention is that it would have more powers to investigate things like money laundering, online fraud, but also significantly to recover funds and really kind of take the prosecution of these crimes on board. Tyler Meredith is a former advisor to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He was talking on CBC News Network earlier today about how in the past it wasn't really clear whose jurisdiction this kind of an agency would fall under, and that perhaps has held back progress. But he sounds hopeful that perhaps having some money in this year's budget for it could help get the job done.
The reason why there hasn't been very effective prosecution of fraud and financial crimes in Canada is because we don't have specialized people who do it. And I think the creation of the Canada Financial Crimes Agency, as much as it has been an idea that's been floating around for a while, if this can move forward with new resources and this gets my second point, key new tools that partner with telecom companies, with banks, with technology companies, there's a potential here for Canada to make a significant leap forward in dealing with what is a problem for a lot of people.
Last week, the Liberals reiterated their promise to recruit, train, hire 1,000 new RCMP officers, apparently 150 of them earmarked to work on these fraud prevention and enforcement activities. But the Conservatives also were eyeing this in their last election platform. It'll be interesting to see when this actually comes in front of the Commons, whether the Conservatives do make it possible to get some of these things passed and in place.
And of course, Janice, the Liberals are in a minority position ahead of this budget next month. They'll need help from the opposition to pass it, and the Conservative leader is already out with demands. What are the details on that?
Yeah, bringing forward 3 demands here. I'm not sure that these demands, the nature of them, are the signal that there's a last-minute negotiation underway to get the Conservatives to vote in favor of this budget. And indeed, when François-Philippe Champagne was asked about it, he seemed to dismiss it out of hand. But essentially, the key thing Conservatives are saying they need are tax cuts, a variety of them, in different ways, and also keeping the deficit under $42 billion. No one who's been kind of spitballing how big the deficit will be, given all the sort of priority spending, thinks it's going to be that small. So pretty clear that
I think the deficit's going to be $70 billion. In fact, let's play a fun little game right now. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think the deficit's going to be. Just in the billions. Just put a number down below. Let me know what you guys think. Trudeau did 40. I think it's going to be not quite double, but I think it's going to be a lot. I think it's going to be over 70. I don't know if it'll be over 100, but I think it'll be over 70. Anyways, we'll have to wait and see. It's soon, though. It's like in a week and a bit. 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to get the budget. And then we're going to know how screwed we are. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of people saying 120, 140, 75, 85. Holy smokes. 200. 100. All right, so we're all above 70. People say 75. We're all above 70. We all agree that it's going to be a massive deficit. All right, that's good. We're all on the same page. I like that. I like that a lot. We're now going to switch over to the House. We're going to see what's going on. All I ask, guys, if you haven't yet already, is to hit the like button and subscribe. That's it. It's free to do. Just hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. There's a little bell notification. Hit the bell notification so you can actually be updated or notified of videos and live streams so you don't miss it. It just gets pushed to your phone, your tablet, or your TV, or whatever it is. And now let's take a look at the House. Let's have fun today. It's going to be an exciting day. All right. I think Pierre's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say unhinged. He's going to be a good attack dog. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in the bones. All right, here we go. Here we go, guys.
A wonderful anniversary to all those who for 30 years now have been cultivating hope and solidarity there. Thank you. You make all the difference.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses are the backbone of our communities. They create jobs, spark innovation, and build local pride. With October 19th to the 24th being Small Business Week here in Canada, I'm reminded this week and every day just how much small businesses in my riding of Bay of Quinte provide to our local communities. This week is about recognizing the hard work, creativity, and resilience of small businesses, especially through these challenging times. Small Business Week is also a moment to reflect on the challenges ahead and recommit to supporting every entrepreneur with the tools they need to thrive. Our government stands with you, ensuring you have the opportunities and tools to shape Canada's future. I look forward to honoring some of these businesses at the Quinte Business Achievement Awards this coming Friday, where many local small business champions will be recognized. Thank you to all the small businesses of Canada and to those of the Bay of Quinte.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre, Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, residents in Richmond are deeply concerned about the Cowichan land ruling. This decision raises serious questions about long-standing private property rights in British Columbia. People want to know if their land titles are secure and what this means for their homes and their future. Yet the Liberal government has remained silent. There has been no explanation, no reassurance, and no plan. As a result, Richmond is holding a public information session on October 28th so residents can get answers that the federal government has failed to provide. Property ownership is a foundational Canadian right. Yes. It's not optional. It's a responsibility of the federal government to protect it. Canadians are watching, and they expect this government to stand up for their rights, not stand by in silence.
The honourable member for Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, today I want to welcome Jewish community leaders from the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs and the Jewish Federations of Canada who are here on Parliament Hill for their annual Advocacy Day. They come at a time when Canada's Jewish community is facing an alarming rise in anti-Semitism. Though Jewish Canadians make up just 1.2% of the population, we make up 70% of all religious-based hate crimes in this country. In 2024 alone, police reported over 900 such incidents, the highest number on record. Across Canada, synagogues, schools, and community centres have had to assume extraordinary security responsibilities, spending more than $40 million each year to keep their members safe. These leaders are here to call on all of us, regardless of party, to confront anti-Semitism with the seriousness with which it deserves. There have been firebombs, people assaulted, Jewish students targeted on campus, and this must end now. Let us stand with Canada's Jewish community and affirm that hate has no place in this country.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has dropped another bombshell, and it landed right on the steps of the Canada Revenue Agency. The AG reports that the CRA answered just 33% of the 32 million calls it got last year. 33% is not a service level, it's a batting average. Perhaps the Blue Jays should hire the CRA. And when a call was answered, 83% of the responses given by the CRA were incorrect. Less accuracy than a liberal budget projection. And here's the ticker. Call center employees don't even have to worry about giving the wrong answers. In performance reviews, CRA rates showing up for work and going on coffee breaks is a higher importance than delivering proper responses to taxpayers. Now, the CRA can't answer phones, but they've increased the amount of audits they're doing on Canadians by 10%. This is not a public service. It's a disservice to Canadians. After 10 years of Liberal mismanagement, Canadians deserve better.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to highlight the presence in Ottawa of a delegation of entrepreneurs and economic leaders from the Greater Quebec City area, led by Quebec International and its president and CEO, Carl Veal. In these times of economic uncertainty, these women and men brilliantly embody the dynamism, creativity, and know-how that are the strength of our regional economy. Their presence here demonstrates a firm commitment to building bridges, sharing their expertise, and exploring new avenues of cooperation with the federal government for the benefit of Quebec as a whole and of Canada as a whole. I join my colleague, the Minister of Government Transformation and Member of Parliament for Quebec City Centre, in extending our warmest greetings to them and in recognizing their outstanding contribution to innovation, job creation, and the sustainable prosperity of our communities. The Quebec City region stands out as a gateway to America, an economic engine, a hub of innovation, and a true source of national pride. Welcome to Ottawa, and thank you for putting Quebec City on the Canadian and international map.
The honourable member for...
Hey, are you guys awake?
Mr. Speaker, last night for a few hours, we were a nation united. Gathered around our TVs, watching the Toronto Blue Jays beat the Mariners in 7 games.
Put some W's down for the Jays if you're awake.
Series for the first time in 32 years.
Don't make me yell.
The season started slow, but around the middle of May, something clicked. Playing with grit, hustle, good pitching, defense, and no easy outs in the lineups, the Blue Jays went 73-45 to finish first place, and we haven't looked back. We love Vladdy, and we've dreamt of what he could do since we signed him at 16 years of age. Gossman, Yasavage, Bieber, Scherzer, Hoffman, the list goes on of all the great pitching. And Kirky, how can you not admire him? A fan favorite, and the everyman in the lineup. And George Springer, who found the fountain of youth and had a career year. We love these Blue Jays because 41 million Canadians can see themselves in them. An underdog, hard work, never give up, and belief in yourself. A little more, that's clear.
The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, October is Women's History Month, a time to honour the women who have shaped our country and to recommit ourselves to building a Canada where everyone can thrive. Today, women hold nearly 43% of leadership roles in Canada, a real improvement from just a few years ago, but representation is still uneven. Indigenous women, women with disabilities, and other marginalized women remain underrepresented, especially in senior and board positions. These numbers remind us that equality is not guaranteed, and it's something we must keep working towards. That's why I was proud to join the Reaching the Unreached event earlier this month in my riding of Brampton Centre, an organization dedicated to empowering and supporting women. I spoke with community leaders and discussed how we can continue to break down barriers for women in every sector. This month and every month, let's continue to advance gender equality and uplift women everywhere. To everyone watching, happy Women's History Month.
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Questions. All right. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Pierre Poilievre.
Each and every dollar that this Prime Minister spends costs us. Each dollar is expensive for Canadians. This government and the Justin Trudeau government doubled inflation. Today, Statistics Canada published new numbers according to which inflation is rising. 4 indicators are higher than projected, and grocery prices are going up twice as fast as the target. Will the Prime Minister in the upcoming budget decrease his taxes and inflationary spending so that Canadians can lead affordable lives? The Honourable Minister of Finance.
You would only hope.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to see that the opposition leader is excited for November 4th. I'm excited too, as are Canadians. Why? Because we will have good news on November 4th, Mr. Speaker. We will present good news to Canadians. We will present an ambitious plan. Last week, I was in Washington, and the Director General of the International Monetary Fund gave Canada and Germany as excellent examples of countries with the ability to make generational investments, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to build a strong, ambitious Canada in which Canadians are happy and proud. Mr. Speaker, we don't work for bankers in Washington. We're here working for single mothers who can't pay their bills, who can't afford groceries.
Yeah, that's right.
The inflation rate is exploding, and this means that Canadians have to spend 70% more for the Canada Revenue Agency. Today, the Auditor General revealed that 15% of calls to the CRA are answered at some point. But even if you can get someone on the phone, you get the wrong information 83% of the time. Why do Canadians have to pay so much for such poor service? The Honourable Finance Minister.
I dare you to call the CRA and
Mr.
ask
Speaker,
what your
I have
TFSA
even more good news
contribution
for the
limit
opposition
is.
leader. He'll be happy to know that on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we have already taken action. We presented a 100-day plan to fix the situation at the Canada Revenue Agency, because on the government side of the House, we know that we have to do better. We know that we have to give Canadians good information. We know we have to be helpful. And we do something else on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, we respect people who work in public service. We respect public servants, and we will always do our best at all times to serve Canadians.
He admits they have to do better. It's not possible for them to do any worse, Mr. Speaker. The reality is today we learned that inflation is again on the march. All 4 measures of inflation are above Bank of Canada's targets. 2 are outside of and above the acceptable range. Food price inflation is rising 2 times the rate that Bank of Canada targets. No wonder we have 2 million people lined up at food banks every single day. This inflation has exploded since this Prime Minister doubled the deficit. Will he reverse his inflationary deficit and taxes in this coming budget?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I think we all know in this side of the House and Canadians, math might not be the cup of tea of the Leader of the Opposition. Neither may be economics, Mr. Speaker. But let me quote one of the authorities in the world, which is the Director General of the International Monetary Fund, Mr. Speaker. She said just last week, then we have countries in the G7 that are in a better position. Germany and Canada stand up in that regard, Mr. Speaker. Both Germany and Canada recognize that this is a very testing time and they need to use their fiscal space. In the case of Canada, The Canadian authorities have been very decisive in taking action. Mr. Speaker, we're doing it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Shut up and sit down.
Mr. Speaker, his banker friends in Washington may think that they have fiscal space, but the single mothers who can't afford groceries have no space left at all to pay for liberal inflation. This government is forcing them to spend 70% more on the Canadian Revenue Agency. Today, the Auditor General revealed that only 15% of calls get responses on time. And even if someone does pick up the phone, there's an 83% chance they give you the wrong answer. Why does this government force Canadians to pay so much for such terrible service?
Oh, it's horrible. Everyone dreads calling.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against dental care, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against the National School Food Program, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against pharmacare, Mr. Speaker. At every step of the way, they fought against the programs that would support Canadians in time of need, Mr. Speaker. No one on this side of this house will tell us what to do. We're going to fight for Canadian. We're going to make Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Another day, more costly slogans from that member of Parliament.
Uno reverse. Uno reverse card. That's hilarious because the Liberals accuse Pierre of being slogans. And so he's reversing it on the Liberals. That's honestly genius. Good job, Pierre. Put some W's out of the chat. Hilarious troll.
Another day and more costly slogans. But now Canadians are learning it was a bait and switch. Today, another terrible tragedy.
Good stuff.
As they laugh, 1,200 workers at the Ingersoll Cami plant learned that they would lose their jobs after that Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a win and that he would keep their jobs here in Canada. They join with 2,000 workers in Brampton, many more in Oshawa. How does the Prime Minister look in the eyes of the very workers that he sold out and betrayed?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
I'll tell you how the Prime Minister how he will deal with the auto sector. He will look at the auto workers in the eyes and he will say, "We will fight for your job."
More slogans, dude. More slogans.
Washington, but also, this is important to say that I met this morning with the Canadian CEO of GM. I was in conversation with the head of the labor union of Unifor, and I also talked to Doug Ford, and I talked to Vic Fideli. And you know what? We're putting in place a response group. We will make sure that we fight for these jobs. We need to make sure that...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
She announced just now that she talked to this person, and she talked to that person, and she talked to this other person, and she talked, and she talked, and they talk, and they talk, and nothing gets done, Mr. Speaker.
Nothing gets
Canadians
done.
are tired of talk. They want their job. This government, this Prime Minister, looked these workers in the eye and said he would negotiate a win, that he would protect auto jobs, that there would be an all-in-Canada supply chain that would keep them working. They even gave $250 million tax dollars to GM for this plant. And now those workers don't know how they're going to pay their bills. How does this government explain the broken promise and betrayal?
There you go. Throw some W's down for Pierre, man. He's cooking today.
Minister of Industry.
Fight for these jobs, and we will hold the companies to account.
That's right.
That being said, let me talk to you about important jobs. 150 new jobs in St. Bruno at Alstom, 700 new jobs at AstraZeneca, 500 new jobs at Ferrero in Ontario, K&S Potash, 50 new jobs, Hitachi Energy, 500 new jobs. This government is
None of
building
those are the auto sector, by the way.
economy.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the University of Quebec in Montreal was wise enough to forbid or block a conference of imam Farouk, but he will still be in Brassard. That imam, that preacher, he will be able to spread hatred, and he will foment hatred legally in Canada. And why will he be able to do that? Because he legally has the right to do so. Will the government eliminate the religious exemption from the criminal code? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we share the Leader of the Bloc Québécois' concerns. Hate speech does not belong in Canada. That's why the Minister of Justice
they can't even define what hate speech is.
Taking
That's
action
the scary
through
part
Bill
of this.
C-5. We are especially targeting hatred. During the last legislature, we tabled legislation against hatred. We are going to do everything we can to ensure that hatred cannot exist in Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. The Minister of Justice is not really getting at the core of the problem. The real problem is the religious exemption, which is still in effect. Spreading hatred is illegal in Canada unless it's for religious reasons. So, for instance, if a woman is assaulted in a war zone, for example, by Hamas in 2023 in September, that can be exempted as a religious exemption. Are those liberal values, truly? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I've already said, and I will repeat, that hate speech has no place in Canada. The Minister of Justice has offered to work with the Bloc Québécois on reforms which are before this House. Through Bill C-9, Mr. Speaker, we're ready to work with them to improve the situation and to ensure that there is no hate speech in Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, there's an incredibly easy way to solve the problem. And the government would be able to be proud of what it's doing rather than doing something shameful. They can eliminate the religious exemption from their own bill. I encourage them to vote in favor of our amendment to eliminate the religious exemption and to forbid hatred and incitement to violence in our media and on our streets, even though that may be against multiculturalism. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-9 is currently being studied at the Justice Committee. We welcome all committee members to suggest amendments to the bill. We will hear from experts, subject matter experts. We're ready and willing to work with the Bloc Québécois and with all parties in this House to ensure that hate speech is not in Canada.
We all know the Prime Minister doesn't shop for his own groceries, so maybe someone over there should tell him what's going on with food prices. Food inflation has now reached the highest level since 2023. Fruits, vegetables, meat, even Halloween candy. Everything's getting more expensive and rising faster, not slower. The cost of living is soaring because the cost of government is soaring. The Prime Minister is spending more than even Justin Trudeau did, which means higher taxes and higher inflation for everyone who lives in the real world. So does the Prime Minister realize that his out-of-control spending mean real costs for real Canadians?
Yeah. Good job. Throw a W down. Melissa's cooking.
Speaker, time and again, we see those Conservatives fight against policies that Canadians not only are benefiting from, but that Canadians are asking that we make permanent. Things like the school food program, Mr. Speaker, which many advocates and indeed families have praised. In fact, in my own riding, I heard just yesterday from a food partner that's working with high schools to make sure that kids get access, not just to fresh food, Mr. Speaker, but the ability to learn how to prepare it themselves. These are the kinds of things that are helping Canadian families, and every step of the way, those guys fight against it.
Exactly. The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, is that Liberal minister who sat here for 10 years while people lined up at food banks, and that's what she has to say? Runaway Liberal deficits, doubled grocery prices, and now the same people who caused the crisis think that the solution is just to spend more of other people's money. It's not just Liberal deficits driving up food costs. They voted against removing every hidden food tax that they themselves imposed. Packaging taxes, the industrial carbon tax, another 17 cents a litre because of the fuel standard. It's a religion to them. Food prices are soaring, fridges are empty. Why don't they scrap the hidden taxes?
The Honourable Minister
good job.
of Health and Family.
Mr. Speaker, again, we see that member and indeed the entire Conservative Party pretend that there was a tax on food. Canadians are smarter than that. They know when they go to the grocery store that food is not taxed. And so instead of imaginary problems, we're coming up with real solutions on this side, Mr. Speaker, whether it's for families, whether it's for seniors, whether it's for workers. We're here for Canadians, both in the good times and the bad. And Mr. Speaker, I just add that I hope that this concern is going to translate into support for our budget that will be tabled later on.
The honourable member for Newt-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Leaders at Walmart grocery stores are no longer saying hello, they're apologizing. But it's these Liberals who should be apologizing for their inflationary deficits that have driven up food prices. Inflation data out today confirms food prices have once again skyrocketed, up 4% as everyday groceries become even more unaffordable for families. So we just need the number, Mr. Speaker. How much higher do food prices need to go before the Liberals admit their policies are starving Canadians?
The honourable minister responsible for Canada-US trade.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague referred to apologies. Perhaps he'd like to lean forward a couple of rows and suggest to his boss, the Leader of the Opposition, that he should apologize to the men and women who serve in Canada's RCMP for attacking their integrity.
Well, there you go. We knew it was going to come up. Liberals are standing up.
He pretends to stand up for the police. He attacks them unfairly, and he should apologize to the women and men who serve in the RCMP. That would be a good apology, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Newt-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
They're so focused on listening to their own spin, they've tuned out the grumbling sounds of millions of hungry Canadian stomachs. The Prime Minister said he would be judged by the prices people pay at the grocery store. Well, with food prices up another 4% thanks to his Liberal government's inflationary deficits, Canadians have made up their minds. He's an empty suit making empty promises that have led to too many empty stomachs. How is this acceptable?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We recognize on this side of the House that families need supports in meeting affordability questions. This is why we have supports in place and why time and time again we have stood for the National School Food Program, for early learning and childcare, making it affordable and accessible across the country, dental care, the Canada Child Benefit, and at each and every opportunity the members opposite voted against these supports for families, for children, for Canadians from coast to coast. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's the same thing over and over again.
Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, everything is costing more, especially food. New food inflation data shows prices in Atlantic Canada are climbing faster than the national average, and in Newfoundland and Labrador, they're under tremendous pressure. Our province already has the highest unemployment rate in the country, yet families are being hit again at the grocery store. Beef up 14%, sugar up 9%, and meat up 6%. Runaway Liberal spending is fueling inflation, and every dollar they waste makes life harder. When will the government stop the reckless spending and start making life affordable for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I welcome this opportunity to share with the member across the way from Newfoundland and Labrador that a single mom in her riding who earns $15,000 a year can now access up to $25,000 because she will automatically get the benefits for her and her children. This is good news. This is affordability, and this is not a slogan.
Bravo. The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, while they brag, more and more people line up at the food banks in Newfoundland and Labrador.
That's right.
They voted against our motion to reduce food costs. It's not good enough. Sneaky, hidden Liberal food taxes, like the clean food regulations, are driving up food costs. And since March, food prices have risen 48% faster in Canada than in the U.S. This year
It's
alone,
literally
food banks are
unsustainable.
expecting 4 million visits. When will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spree and finally make life affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
my colleague of the benefit of the school food program. I have spoken with moms.
It's a good program.
Absolutely grateful.
In
Their children
theory,
now
but
have
right
food
now,
in their bellies and are not
I don't know if we can afford
separated
it.
from all the other children that
that's
can
what
expect the
big
basic right to
concerns
have
are.
food in the mornings. I also want to remind my colleague of the importance of the dental program, the child benefit, and also $10 a day child care. This
You
is
should have
affordability.
parents
It is
that are able
not
to afford
loose
groceries for their own
slogans.
kids, not government handouts or government reliance, right? That's kind of the issue here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, inflation is still out of control under this Liberal government. The government is spending more, and Canadians
like
are the
button,
ones
guys,
paying
if you
the
haven't yet
bill.
already.
Today,
Please.
Stats Canada announced that consumer prices rose 2.4% year over year in September in Canada. What's worse, in Quebec, they rose 3.3%. Furthermore, Quebec was one of the provinces where gas prices increased, rising by 2.7%. Liberal deficits are very expensive for Canadians, but even more so for Quebecers. When will this Prime Minister finally get his deficits under control to ensure that Quebec is no longer the inflation champion of Canada? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, our friend across the way previously sat at Quebec's National Assembly, where decisions are made differently. We have chosen to support families, to support childcare and daycare services, to support pharmacare, to support seniors, to support young people. And I think he would have made the same choice at the National Assembly of Quebec, though. So why is he rising to criticize us? Is he going to vote against all of our supports? If so, he should admit it. The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-L'Île. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine being that disconnected from Quebecers? On Thursday, the federal government announced that it will invest $52 million for Quebec's healthcare system, but not to treat people and patients. No, they're investing $52 million to anglicize our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, what our hospitals really need is money to treat people, not money to make Quebec more English-speaking. English is doing just fine in Quebec, including in hospitals. When will this government stop its crusade to make Quebec more English-speaking? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. With all due respect to my colleague across the way, Mr. Speaker, he knows full well that our government is the one which has done the most for official languages in Canada through the reform of the Official Languages Act. We have invested $2 billion in official languages, and for the first time, we are going to meet our Francophone immigration outside Quebec targets, and we're even going to triple those over the next 10 years. We're the first government to do so much, to take this type of action. We are also helping Francophone communities outside Quebec. What the member claims is totally false. The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-L'Île. English is far from being under threat in Quebec. It is unacceptable to waste $52 million of our money to make our hospitals more English-speaking, instead of spending that money on treating people. Naturally, the Quebec government has criticized the move. I quote the Quebec government, "Once again, the federal government is encroaching on Quebec's areas of jurisdiction. It should instead take the funds and give Quebec an unconditional transfer to let the government, which is responsible for healthcare, decide how to spend the money." Mr. Speaker, why not transfer the money to Quebec so that it can be put to good use? Good use meaning treating Quebecers. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Of course, Quebec always wants more money just for themselves.
Mr. Speaker, I'm shocked, and I think most Quebecers are shocked too, because our government is investing in essential services. We're investing in language minority communities throughout the country. For instance, we've helped the Georges Dumont Hospital in Moncton. We've helped healthcare centers in the prairies. We are investing, of course, in healthcare in Quebec. Quebecers are shocked by what the member is suggesting. Is the member really suggesting that we should deprive Anglophone Quebecers from receiving healthcare in their first language? Is that what he's suggesting, Mr. Speaker?
For Calgary East, this Liberal Prime Minister's
economic record is even worse than Justin Trudeau's. By doubling the deficit, he's making everything more expensive, especially groceries. Today's devastating inflation numbers confirmed. Liberal deficits are crushing Canadians. Rent up 5%, groceries up 4%. The 4 core inflation numbers all above the bank's target. This so-called budget experts' math is not mathing. Will these Liberals stop their inflationary deficits that are driving up the cost of living?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the Conservative Party opposite has a hard time, but here's some facts. 21 straight months in the targeted inflation rate from Bank of Canada. Our economy grew jobs in September. We have the lowest debt in the G7, lowest deficit G7, lowest net debt to GDP in the G7. Mr. Speaker, our economy has had challenges, but it is strong, it is growing. Our Prime Minister was elected to build the strongest economy in the G7. That's exactly what he's going to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
And yet this Prime Minister has built the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. And did these guys learn anything from Justin Trudeau that the more they spend, the worse it gets for Canadians? 10 years of deficit spending has left Canadians with high inflation, and it's only getting worse. And in typical Liberal fashion, this Prime Minister promised to cap government spending, yet he's going to double the deficit. After 10 years of these Liberal deficits, what don't they understand? The more they spend, the more expensive things get for Canadians.
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, again, let's look at facts. Our economy is not shrinking. Our economy grew. It added jobs. Interest rates are down. Inflation is with targeted rates. On November 4th, we're going to table a budget. We're going to spend less. We're going to invest more in capital projects. We're going to invest in nation-building projects, infrastructure, housing. We are going to build the strongest economy in the G7. We're not going to take any lessons from somebody that's never worked in the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East.
Over the past weekend at Halloween events in Stoney Creek, the crippling cost of living was the hot topic at my booth. New inflation data confirms all 3 core inflationary measures are above target. Grocery inflation is up 4%, rent inflation is up nearly 5% in the last year. Liberal deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. Will the Liberals get their inflationary deficits under control to make life more affordable for Canadians?
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know where the party opposite's been, but we know where the leader of the opposition's been. He spent the last week peddling dangerous far-right conspiracy theories about law enforcement in our country. He should apologize. Well, he's been attacking the rule of law. Canada's new government spent the last week announcing a new suite of affordability measures to strengthen the rule of law, crack down on crime, keep Canadians safe. This will be included in our first budget. I urge Conservative MPs to speak up, stand up, call on the leader opposite to apologize. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Apologize for saying Trudeau should be jailed.
Canadians care about is the cost of living, and the more these Liberals deficit spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. New inflation data today confirms this. All 3 core inflation targets are above target. Rent is up 5% over the year. Groceries are up 4% over the year. After 10 years of their deficits, the cost of living in this country cannot take anymore. So will the Liberals stay on focus, get their inflationary deficits under control to make life more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Small Business, Tourism and Gender Equality.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians trust that our government has their back. Why? Because we are making life more affordable, and we have cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. This is allowing Canadians to put more money back into their pockets. And speaking of food, Mr. Speaker, good news. Our government is making the school food program permanent. This is going to put $800 back into Canadians' pockets to actually feed healthy meals at school. And also, 5.5 million low-income Canadians will automatically receive federal benefits through CRA tax filings. This is real, tangible benefits for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for
Less government is what we need, not more government.
Mr. Speaker, last week in my riding, I spoke to families who are struggling to make ends meet. In a country like ours, it shouldn't be like that. Yet, Quebec is seeing inflation rise to 3.3% because of this inflationary Liberal government. As a result, the price of gas, rent has gone up by 10%, groceries has skyrocketed. Families can't do it anymore. Will the Liberals finally get their inflationary deficits under control and make life more affordable for Canadians and Quebecers? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. The answer is yes. The member voted against every support measure that we've put forward over the last year, so he is not credible in his question. If we want to talk about credibility, Mr. Speaker, we know that there are still reasonable Conservatives. Vicious attacks from the leader of the official opposition against the RCMP is unacceptable, against the rule of law is unacceptable. We see it on the radio, we see it on social media, on TV, but no one across the aisle has attacked the leader of the opposition to say that it's unacceptable. Will one of them finally do so?
Speaker, I'm proud to be part of a new government that has championed trade diversification since day one. We've broken down internal trade barriers within Canada, and we've signed new trade agreements with Ecuador and Indonesia. We're moving at a pace and intensity that Canadians expect of us. Can the Minister of International Trade update this House on our government's latest action to expand and grow our trade relationship with the United Kingdom and what it means for Canadians?
These people just straight up lying.
Good news, Mr. Speaker. Today we table legislation to expand the CPTPP trading bloc to welcome our partners from the United Kingdom, a major step forward for Canadian trade. Why the UK, Mr. Speaker? The UK is Canada's third largest trading partner. Last year alone, they represented $28 billion of Canadian exports. That's billions of dollars of Canadian products produced by Canadian workers and communities across Canada, Mr. Speaker. This is yet another step forward in our trade diversification efforts. Thank you.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, after the Prime Minister failed to negotiate a win with Trump, Canada's auto industry has been hit yet again. Devastating news from this morning where over 1,200 highly skilled auto workers at the Cami Ingersoll plant are being laid off by GM indefinitely. This adds to the 2,200 job losses in Oshawa and the 3,000 announced in Brampton. The Liberals have sold out our auto workers. So will the Prime Minister finally admit that he's lost control of the wheel and is driving our auto sector off the cliff?
Yeah! Way to go!
The Honourable Minister for Industry.
Colleague comes from the region, and I look forward to working with him to finding solutions. Obviously, we will fight for these jobs. Not only will we do that, but this morning we were already on the phone with the company to be in solution mode. We were with the GM CEO, with the Unifor Labour, and also
it's
with
done,
Doug
dude.
Ford
Auto
and
sector's
Vic
moving to
Fideli.
America.
Our goal is to bring back a new model to Ingersoll, and we're on it. Thank you.
The honourable member for
Canada
Oxford.
won't have an auto sector.
I've been talking to the auto workers who are losing their jobs now because of their failed policies. An auto worker in Ingersoll called me this morning and says he doesn't know how he will pay for his mortgage. He doesn't know how he will feed his family. There is a real sense of anxiety in our community. The Liberals blew billions in EVs, and now Canadian workers are the ones that are paying the price and their families. So, will the Liberals finally hit the brakes and stop selling out Canadian workers?
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is right in saying that there's real anxiety right there, and I agree, because I've been in contact with workers and I feel it as well. So our goal is to make sure that we are able to bring back jobs to Ingersoll, to work with the company, to work with the government of Ontario, to work with the labor unions. But meanwhile, we'll make sure that we continue to engage with the United States, because at the end of the day, we know that this is because of the unjustified tariff by the president against the auto sector. Thank you.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, this news out of GM today is another devastating blow for auto workers. It comes less than a week after Stellantis announced 3,000 layoffs as they move production from Canada into the U.S. The Prime Minister looked Canadians in the eye and promised that in exchange for their votes, he would prevent auto sector jobs from happening. Well, they're happening. If the government included a Canadian-wide job protection plan in their $15 billion deal to Stellantis, they can simply invoke that clause. The minister who signed the contract should be able to answer this question. Did they include a jobs protection clause in the contract to Stellantis?
They did not.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Conservatives have been wanting to see the contracts that are linked to the Stellantis plant. And you know what? We've said yes. So the opposition on the committee will have access to the contracts. And they will discover that indeed we negotiated well. And indeed, Stellantis is on the hook, Mr. Speaker.
Well, we'll see that soon, won't we? We'll know the truth very soon.
Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, it's been a week, and all we've got from this minister is political theater. She's bragging about who she gets on the phone. She's bragging about the tough talks she's having. Here's the thing. If they actually included a jobs protection clause in the contract, all they have to do is invoke it. I'm starting to get a terrible feeling. I'm starting to worry that they signed a $15 billion deal with Stellantis and didn't include a guarantee to protect those Canadian jobs. Can the minister tell Canadians very clearly, explicitly, did they include a jobs protection plan for all jobs at Stellantis when they forked over $15 billion?
Andrew Scheer, dude, he's so good at that. Put some W's down for Scheer.
My colleague is trying to spook Canadians, but I just would like to remind him that the support that was given to the company was linked to the production of batteries, and therefore no money is spent.
Yeah, start from the top, please.
I know my colleague's trying to spook Canadians right now, but I think what is really, really important to remember is that any support from the government was linked to the production of batteries, and in that sense, our support is linked from the moment that the production is happening. The production has not necessarily happened yet. That being said, Mr. Speaker, what we will do is to make sure that we hold Stellantis to account, because obviously jobs are important in the at the Brampton facility, and we'll continue to fight for these jobs.
The honourable member for Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, during the last election, the Prime Minister promised Canadians that he would get a deal with the United States.
Yeah, I can't defend that.
Since he was elected, tens of thousands of Canadians have lost their jobs, and $54 billion of investment has fled the country. Last week, Stellantis announced its plans to move their Brampton plant to Illinois after the finance minister signed a deal giving them $10 billion taxpayer dollars. Canadian auto workers want to know what job guarantees were in these contracts.
The honourable minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague has heard very well that the government will make these contracts available to the opposition. So again, he can assert a series of sort of fabricated conspiracy theories. Doesn't make them true. What is true, Mr. Speaker, is that our government is supporting a proud tradition of building vehicles and cars in Canada. Over 100 years of Canadian workers building these cars. Mr. Speaker, we're going to defend those workers, support those businesses, and fight to ensure we get a deal with the United States that's good for Canadian businesses and Canadian workers.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, Canadians
have
known it for a while, but the Auditor General has just confirmed that the Canada Revenue Agency is a Liberal disaster. It's uncontrollable and out of control.
She's Ukraine envoy.
Last June,
she gone.
Barely 5% of calls were handled within the expected time frame. But even worse, when you do get through, 4 times out of 5, the information provided was wrong. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister for National Revenue. Are they aware that this affects the most vulnerable among us, people on low revenue, seniors, and those who can't pay for an accountant? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my colleague, and he knows it full well, but Mr. Speaker, he should be overjoyed because we have already acted. We didn't wait for a report to be published by the Auditor General. We've already acted upstream. I enacted a 100-day plan to improve service because we want to offer good services to Canadians, and I'm sure that he will announce it in his riding. We've also tabled in the next budget a way to obtain benefits automatically. That's a great bonus for those who need more, and it will help affordability in our country. I'm sure he's overjoyed right now. The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent, Akiwa-Emrak. Well, I'm glad that the minister is happy, but I'd like to remind him that 2 years ago he did the same thing. He claimed, I've met all the leaders of grocery stores and grocery prices will go down. But it's skyrocketed since, and that's the truth of the matter. But back to the CRA, Mr. Speaker. The auditor stated the agency places more importance on adhering to work shift schedules and breaks than on the actual accuracy of information provided to Canadians. What does he have to say about that? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who is watching QP today, but I'm not sure that the people in Riding will be proud of him attacking those working for the CRA. These public servants do exemplary work. What they need, Mr. Speaker, is that we improve processes, that we improve technology. Everyone wants to offer great service to Canadians. And I know that in his case, he knows that CRA workers are working very hard to serve Canadians, and we'll give them the means to do even better.
Member for Calgary Midnapore.
Things are certain in life: death, taxes, and you will wait on hold when you call the CRA, according to today's Auditor General report.
Yeah, that's true.
CRA's own service standards were only met 18% of the time, with wait times doubling over the last year. Only 17% of agents could accurately provide basic tax information. Complaints have increased by 145% in the last 3 years. So can the minister explain why Canadians are paying so much, yet receiving so little? Good.
The Honourable Secretary of
Good
State
question.
for Financial Institutions.
And funny spin,
Thank you,
too.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, look, Canadians deserve timely, accurate, and consistent information from the CRA. We accept...
That's right, we do. That's right, we do.
The Auditor General's report. We've embarked upon a 100-day plan. Service is improving. We've got a long ways to go. But we are working with the leadership of the CRA. We will make it right. Canadians will get the service they deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Calgary Midnapore.
Well, instead of focusing on other people's jobs, that member should start doing his. Almost 10 years to the date, the Liberals signed a $50 million contract for the CRA call system. It is now almost quadrupled to $190 million. And operational costs at the CRA have increased by 70% under these Liberals. While taxpayers wait on hold, Liberal insiders and contractors cash in. So, does the government have a hang-up with value for money? Is this another Arrive scam?
The Honourable Secretary
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the CRA for delivering Canadians great service like the Canada.
Nah, shut the hell up. CRA's trash, dude.
Where would Canadians be without the CRA delivering COVID benefits? Mr. Speaker, service levels need to improve.
That was an automated
We accept
system,
the Auditor
dumbass.
General's report. We will get this right. Service levels and access are improving. We have a lot more work to do, but we will deliver for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That was an automated system. And then they clawed back on everybody. This freaking COVID benefits, they clawed back on everybody. Absolutely insane. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm on vacation with my family. We just seen the meat and potatoes of question period. I'm sorry for those who want to keep watching, but I did announce at the beginning of the stream that I would be cutting it short once we got through all the main people today for QP. Thanks for watching. I know, sorry, I might, probably feels like you're being blue balled or something like that, or rug pulled, but that is the end of the stream. I'll be back same time tomorrow. Peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your day. CRA is an absolute joke. Bye for now.